New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Good morning. It's Saturday morning on the New Thought Media Network, and welcome to this Science of Mind and Spirit conversation series. I'm Rev Barbara Jeab Trudell, founder and spiritual director of the Universal Joy Center in Toronto, Canada, and my pronouns are she, they. Well, there's a team of us, as you probably saw in that opening graphic, and every Saturday morning we join here on the New Thought Media Network to share the science of mind, the principles, the practice, and more than anything else, how to apply those principles in your life today. And if you're watching live, I'd love it if you would put a greeting in the chat. I see Wayne is here. And, come in, say hello, where you're watching from. And that would be great. And we can, include you. Yes, it is nice to be smiled at, isn't it? Hi, Roy. Glad you're here. Throughout today's show, feel free to write questions or make comments in the chat, and I'll do my best to get to them. And so how does this program work? Well, from January to July, we go through the Science of Mind textbook chapter by chapter. And then in the last remaining months, we explore the articles and resources in the Science of Mind library and archive, which is available 24/7 to help us go even deeper. And you may want to consider going on there and checking it out for yourself. We can read more of Ernest Holmes' writings there and other resources related to Science of Mind specifically. And there's so many resources that we refer to. And so you can find them all in the archives at scienceofmindarchives.com. So we are going to be doing, hi, Courtney. Our topic today comes from the Science of Mind, chapter 15, which is page 215. And the chapter is Physical Perfection Continued. Sound interesting? To me, it does. Well, when I was going through this chapter, because it's kind of a long one, and I wasn't sure if we would get through it, but I think we might. He starts off the chapter saying, what can be healed? And remember, healing is different than cure. And we'll talk more about that later. What should we try to heal through spiritual treatment? If we are dealing only with the power of a thought, we should not expect to heal anything. But if we are dealing with a universal principle, why should we set any limit on its power? Since the law of God is infinite from the spiritual viewpoint, there is no incurable disease as opposed to a curable one. The law knows nothing about disease. It only acts. The practitioner realizes that their word is the present power and activity of truth, which is in them, which is almighty, which is God, beside which there is none other. To spirit, there can be no incurable disease. The word incurable means not susceptible of being cured. The root definition of cured is cared for. If we say that a disease is incurable, we're saying that it is not sensitive to care. And as long as any cell is alive, it is sensitive to care, which means that as long as a person is alive, the cells of the body respond. And it's interesting as you work with spiritual mind treatment and you're working with clients. I've been doing this for about 30 years now. And when you're working with clients and you're having a conversation with them and they're telling you what's going on, sometimes intuitively you get a sense of what might be behind that condition. And it's something that they have to come to. It's not something you can direct, but you might make the observation, oh, I just thought this. And that can sometimes help them come to clarity. That clarity is the key to shifting, because as soon as we change our mind, which is our whole belief system, when we change that, then a change happens that's pretty rapid. So I remember years ago doing treatment with a person who was living with AIDS and was really in dire straits. Like, we're talking somebody who they basically said, there's nothing we can do for you at this point. There are new drugs out. We could try those. But he was down to maybe 90 pounds and just looked like a skeleton walking. We did treatment together. And when I asked him what he wanted, he said, I want to live. He said, I've never been afraid of dying, but I was always afraid of living. And this disease has helped me to see the value of life. So we treated. 2 weeks later, he'd gained 18 pounds. 4 months later, he was back to work. And a month after that, they couldn't find the virus in his blood. And I think and this was back in the late 90s when people were still dying of HIV and AIDS. So it's when we work with treatment, we have to be clear in our mind. We have to be really clear when we're sitting with a client, or we're even sitting with ourselves if we're treating for ourselves, and we're doing that treatment and we're thinking about the problem. We've eliminated the possibility of the treatment being effective. So we want to clear our mind so that we can see the physical perfection of the individual that's in front of us. That's the key. In giving mental and spiritual treatments, this is on page 216, it is better not to dwell too much on the negative, since we are liable to give it undue importance. To affirm the presence of God is better than to deny the presence of evil. However, if the presence of evil persists in making its appearance, it is sometimes well to deny it, to know it is neither person, place, nor thing, that it does not belong to us, and that it cannot operate through or around us. It is neither cause, medium, nor effect. It is neither imagination, idea, nor reflection. It is neither visible nor invisible. It cannot emanate from God and does not emanate from us. The devil is a myth, and heaven is lost merely for the lack of an idea of harmony. The individual I, which is in an incarnation of the universal I am. So the practitioner, like sometimes, it requires that we do that denial step. And when we do that denial, what we're denying is the power of that disease as us. It's there. We're not denying that it's present at the moment, but what we're denying is its power. And in doing that, we go back to the perfection of our unique and authentic self. We go back to that place where we know our oneness with God. We know who we are, and we have a good sense of the possibility of that beautiful being coming back to perfect health. This recognition is a mental act, and we must know that the all-powerful Spirit is ever available and ever equal to the healing of any discordant condition of body, mind, or affairs. But we must never look outside of ourselves to find this spirit, since it is indwelling. So we're turning within to get these answers. We're turning within to see what our next step is. We're turning within to discover our strengths and our possibility. We're turning within. We're not going out here going, oh, how do I do this? Talking to my friend or, what do I do? What we're doing is we're going inward and we're clearing our consciousness so we can see the divine perfection that's always there, that has always existed. And we know it's there because if you've ever had a cold and you've recovered from it, well, how did that happen? The perfection never left. The cold was simply masking it. Okay, so whatever is going on in our lives is masking our true divinity. And so we want to eliminate that. We don't want to look outside, we want to look inside. He says what we really do is to look within our own consciousness. Look within our own consciousness, and as we treat, to acknowledge the presence of God. The sincere practitioner will be sure his own thought is clear, that their own faith is equal to the demands made upon it. Above all else, they must be careful not to be caught in the negative stream of consciousness. And he goes on to say that Jesus could not have raised Lazarus from those who were believed to be dead if he had been afraid to roll away the stone, nor if he had listened to the wailing of those who were outside grieving. So to be spiritually minded is to enter the tranquil atmosphere of pure thought. And so when we're treating, of course, the first treat is the recognition. And what are we recognizing? Well, we're recognizing this power in the universe, this power that is omniscience, omnipotence, and omnipresence. That's what we're recognizing. And that first step is so important, because when we get in that zone of really feeling and knowing and accepting that presence of God within us, as us, in that moment, then we have a clear pathway forward when it comes to this healing. So in beginning a series of treatments for any person, we start with the idea of perfect God, perfect human, and perfect being. That's where we start. In every case, it is well to begin by the removal of doubt and fear, to assure ourselves that the one whom we are seeking to help is complete and perfect, harmonious and whole. So I mentioned earlier about my friend who had AIDS and was dying. And before I could treat for him, I actually went to my minister, the Reverend Carol Carnes, and I said, please treat for me because I can't see past this person's disease at the moment. I was really sad that my friend was dying. So she treated for me, and that cleared my mind so that I could sit with him in love, in appreciation of who he is, and know that all is well, that he truly is divine perfection. The healing came out of that, and he's still alive today doing wonderful work in the world. So it's easy to believe that God is perfect. We must also believe that the spiritual human is perfect. And since it is difficult to believe that the objective human is perfect, we must confine our statements to a realization of the spiritual perfection. And whatever degree we can do that, that's where we're really going to make a difference. So we want to just pay attention to where our thoughts are. When I was studying to become a practitioner, I was meeting with a young man who had lung cancer, 32 years old, I think, carrying an oxygen tank with him. And when we sat down and chatted, I asked him what he would like, and I expected him to say health. I want health, I want to feel better. And he didn't say that. He said, I just want for it to be okay. So I had to, when I began slowly because I had to treat my mind first. I had to get rid of my predetermined idea of what it was he needed and get into the space of what he actually asked for. And it's really important that we do that. We don't treat for what we want for people. We treat for what they have requested. End of story. Okay, really, really important. So he goes on in here and says it's very careful never to treat the physical person, but to think of our entire being as spiritual. And if our entire being is spiritual, then our physical being must reflect spiritual ideas, right? We're spiritual beings. I think we forget that sometimes. We think we have to become spiritual. You know, we join the Center for Spiritual Living because we want to become spiritual. We join Unity because we want to become spiritual. You can't become it, you are it. And so what we're trying to do is figure out how to be human. That's really what we're trying to do. How do I be human? You know, it's hard. I'm this great, expansive, dynamic, glorious, perfect being of love and light, and I'm in this little container that isn't doing what I want it to. Isn't that how it feels sometimes? So we want to look beyond what's happening around us in the physical and go into that consciousness of I am one with God. I am the I am. And it's in that place when we can get our mind there, we can do remarkable, remarkable things because it's not us doing the healing, right? We're not doing it. We're simply taking an idea that has been presented to us, and we are using that idea to kind of cleanse the palate, so to speak. We're changing our mind about something. And so when we're treating, if I'm treating with you, then it's in the subjective. That's where the universal, that's where we are one, right? Is in that subjective. And so when we can drop our awareness into that heart space, into that place of love, and we're speaking together and you've made the request, the answer is right there. And it happens so easily and beautifully when we let go. We can't control. He says on page 219, infinite love harmonizes our entire being. The healing currents of life flow through us, taking away every negative thought and manifestation and adjusting our whole physical being to the idea of divine harmony. Love harmonizes our entire being. Isn't that so true? There's an energy of love. I remember the first time I walked into in Calgary, it was the Center for Positive Living at the time. And the first time I walked in there, I was just overwhelmed by this feeling of love. Just the whole room vibrated with it. And I knew I'd found my forever home. Well, now I'm in Toronto, but it's still, we're still affiliated with CSL. So it's important to allow ourselves to feel and to be. He goes on 219 to say, since our spiritual understanding is not sufficient to enable us to mentally set bones, we call in a surgeon. Since we cannot walk on the water, we take a boat. We can go only as far as our spiritual knowledge takes us. Principle is infinite, but we shall demonstrate its power only at the level of our concept of it. So if you're sitting back to doing treatment and you're trying to make more money and you're hiding your bills in a drawer because you don't even want to look at them because you don't have the money to pay them, that's a mistake. You know, we're trying to pretend it doesn't exist. We can't do that. We need to pull it out front and center. We need to make a list. We need to see exactly where we are, what's going on. And then we need to surrender into the knowing that God is present right here as source. As source. And as we clear that pattern of lack and limitation, we begin to receive a flow that is quite remarkable. An unexpected income or raise in pay, or something happens to shift our money story. And so it is with health as well. He says, we are probably on the verge of a great spiritual awakening. I feel that. People are so tired of looking for things where they do not exist that they are going to more and more completely open their thought to the realization that spirit is an active presence. The beloved. The beloved. Imagine dancing with the beloved. Sleeping with the beloved, waking with the beloved. The relationship we have with this divine energy is so deep and so beautiful, and we sometimes ignore it. So I'm saying, call your attention to it and pay attention to your body, because your physical body will help you to know if you are, in fact, in that place of harmony, or if, in fact, there's something that needs to be adjusted. We have the ability to do that. He goes on to say in here, but if we spend our entire time trying to find out why it does not work, we shall never find out how and why it does work. The wonderful thing about spiritual mind treatment is anybody can learn how to do it, and everyone who does it is successful, because whatever consciousness you have as you do that treatment, that is the consciousness that will manifest. So that's an important thing to remember. He goes on to say, somehow there must come to each individual an interior conviction that we are one with the universe, and that the spirit flows through us at the level of our recognition and embodiment of it. Yeah, it's how we look at all of this. He says, by repeating an affirmation, dwelling on its meaning, meditating upon the spiritual significance of it, until the subjective state of our thinking becomes clarified. So sometimes we need to really sit with an idea. If there's an area in our life that's been a challenge or a difficulty, it's important that we sit in the question. Linda's put a nice comment in. My first experience with Science of Mind was at Mile High in Denver. Mile High is a great place. I've only been there twice. 25 plus years ago, and I still have vibrant memories of the love and inclusion I felt. I knew no one there. Yeah, exactly. That's how I was with it in Calgary as well. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, it's an amazing community, and really the message is so powerful and so positive. So he's talking in here now about the idea of understanding your choices to give a treatment, but the treatment becomes operative through the law. It's not something that we're doing. We're just sort of setting it in motion. And never say, I'm not good enough to treat. In God, there are no good, better, or best. Do not allow yourself to become superstitious, for you're dealing with a normal, natural law in the mental and spiritual world. This law is just as real as any other known law, and it works very, very fast, sometimes immediate. So we want to really pay attention to what it is we're treating for, how we're talking about it, and the way that we're doing it. On page 221, he writes, if you find yourself saying this, at once heal yourself. Such a belief comes from the thought that we are dealing with a limited power and that such power knows degrees of discomfort. The truth is there is but one power, and that power knows only perfection. When we say something, the universe says yes. God says yes. So what are the things that we're saying? Oh, I'm so sick and tired. Yes. I'm so broke. Yes. You see the problem? See, we're actually manifesting beautifully. It's not that we're not. We are manifesting. It's just we're not manifesting that which we think we want because we're focused on that which we do not want. So can you see where you need to make that shift from what you don't want to what you do, and spend your time focusing on what you do? Principle is the power that made everything. It is absolute. You got that? It's absolute. It will not and cannot be denied. The only thing that can deny God, universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, is you. See, we can do it for ourselves, and we do it all the time, don't we? We'll be going along and life is going okay, and then we sort of go, Oh yeah, when's the shoe gonna drop? When's the next bad thing gonna happen? And right away there we have blocked and shifted our direction. But we can change that. That's the beautiful thing. In this moment, everything is new again. And that's what I love so much about this teaching is there is no past that's going to define me. Whatever my past was, it was. And what it will be depends on me and what I'm thinking, saying, doing in this moment. Remember that you need assume no personal responsibility for the recovery of your patient, but you do have a definite obligation, which is to give the treatment properly, clearly, fully, and conscientiously. If you've agreed to do treatment for someone, do it. Okay? If you'd said you would, make sure that you do. He goes on to say on 222, disease will be healed, provided you get at its cause and remove it. And that's a really important thing because everything began somewhere. And a problem in your body or a problem in your finances or a challenge in your relationships, whatever it is, an opportunity, whatever you want to call it, it is there because there was something that set it in motion. There was a beginning point. So he goes on to say, and by getting at its cause, we mean getting at the mental cause, and provided the one for whom you're working is willing to surrender that cause. You cannot heal anyone of their trouble if it is the result of some mental attitude that they will not surrender. And I've had that experience. I remember someone years ago who had cancer, and they were pretty sick. It was a cancer that was not treatable or could not be healed, cured, shall I say, could not be cured. And so we were sitting chatting one day, and one of his comments to me was, my stepson is killing me. And I looked at him and I said, did you hear what you just said? And he went, yeah. He said, man, he's killing me. And I said, well, what if you sat down with your wife and with him and had a conversation so that you could heal whatever? And he went, no, I wouldn't upset her with that. I wouldn't upset her. So he was not willing to surrender the cause. And I believe the cause was that he was 52 years old and died a couple of months later. I think sometimes we get really convicted in our thoughts about what can and cannot happen. And if we're not willing to shift it, we're not going to see what it is that we're actually seeking. So we want to find out the mental attitude and remove it by showing the patient the right mental attitude. So that's what can change him. On 223, he says, in giving treatment, first recognize who and what this person is saying, something like, this person is the full and complete expression of truth, and as such, they are free from any sense of limitation. They are not bound by any sense of inferiority which needs to cover up, for they are a unique individuality expressing all the attributes of God. Ooh, that's lovely. See, that's what we want to do. We want to get past the idea that somehow they're broken or something's wrong. And they may be experiencing something that feels wrong. But that doesn't mean that their physical perfection, that divinity within, has been touched. It has never been touched by anything. No matter what you've gone through in your life, I can assure you, the essence of you is intact. That physical perfection may look a little off, but your divinity is absolute perfection. So on 224, he wrote, a treatment is a specific thing. When you are treating to neutralize any particular form of disease, your word should be spoken in such a way as to neutralize a belief in the necessity of the condition. See, if we have something going on, there's a reason it's there. And we might keep it. We might decide we want to keep it. Hard to say. Each treatment must have in itself everything necessary to cover the case. When you treat, resolve things into thought, bodies, people, objects, and all things. Everything is a thing of thought. And I mean, think about it. You know, thousands of years ago, they didn't have chairs like the one I'm sitting in today. What happened? Well, somebody got uncomfortable sitting on the ground, decided, hey, there's got to be a better way. And they lifted something up and put some legs under it and went, well, that feels good. Then they started padding it and making it more comfortable and came up with new designs. Everything is an idea first. And this is why we can, in fact, heal, because it is an idea first. And as you're going through this chapter, you're going to see all kinds of wonderful statements by Ernest Holmes about various conditions. Headache, why people become fatigued, treating mental illness, whatever it is that we're striving to look after, he's probably got something in here about him. And he's talking about, on page 224, he's talking about repeating treatments. If we've come to a real clarity and the manifestation has happened, there's no need to repeat it. It's done. But if it hasn't manifest, then we will continue to treat. He says on page 225, treat until you get results. A healing takes place when the patient is no longer sick and until such time mental work should be done. So we continue doing our work moment by moment as we move along, because we want to make sure that we're, getting everything covered that needs to be covered. So removing the complex, suppose someone is constantly saying, everything is all wrong in the world. He wrote this in 1926. Fits for today, does it not? It's like, wow, everything is wrong in the world. Yeah, people are wrong, things are wrong, conditions are wrong. All is sickness and unhappiness, nothing seems worthwhile. That sounds like a number of people I've heard chatting lately. So treatment straightens out consciousness by clear thinking. So when the inner consciousness agrees with the truth, then and not until then, a demonstration takes place. Specifically, go over the thoughts which are wrong and use the power of your word to heal them. And further down, he goes on to say, in spiritual mind healing, we recognize that cause is never, that should be in bold, it's never material or physical. It might appear to be, but that's the effect that we're looking at. And what we want to do is get back to the cause. There is only one first cause, but it is often necessary for the practitioner to diagnose the thought of his patient, in fact. This is an important point in healing. This is psychoanalysis from Psyche or Soul. Psychoanalysis is the analysis of the soul or subjective mind. Its teaching is that within the soul or subjective mind, all the seeds of our thoughts fall, and that most of our physical troubles are caused by some inner conflict. And think about it for a second. Do we have inner conflicts? Yeah, we do. I mean, maybe a friend says something to you and you take it in a way that's a little questionable, or you're walking down the street and you see a friend on the other side of the street and you wave and they don't wave back. You go, whoa, like what's going on? That was rude. And then you find out later they didn't even see you. It's like we make things up in our mind sometimes. And when we iron that confusion out, that's when we create something really, really remarkable. He says, it's probable that when Jesus forgave the man his sins, he realized that the man had a complex of condemnation within himself. That sense of condemnation which the race holds about itself weights it down, and it must be removed. This explains why Jesus said, thy sins be forgiven thee. It is feeling that hurts. It has been said, life is a comedy to him who thinks, a tragedy to him who feels. Yeah, it's one of those things that we get all kinds of stuff going on that we're like, oh, I don't know about that one. A practitioner must be filled with the spirit of divine compassion. It's a big part of what we do. We must have a deep underlying sense of unity and sympathy, else we will do but little good. But we must not have sympathy with the disease or the limitation or the lack, whatever's going on. We want to go past that. We want to see the wholeness of the individual that we're with. We want to see their divine perfection. When we're walking down the street and we see a street person there who's got a hat or a tin can out, or an old coffee cup sitting there waiting for change, we need to see that person. And we don't see them by turning our head the other way and walking past them. We see them by looking them in the eye. We see them by chatting, having a conversation. We see them by making note. Even if we don't speak and we throw in a little bit of change or a couple of bucks or whatever, we look them in the eye and just say, God bless you, or hello, how are you today? And if you say, how are you, wait for the answer. Don't just walk off. It's important. It's really important that we connect with everybody from that place, that deep place within. We must have a deep underlying sense of unity and sympathy, else we will do little good. So we have to be able to connect. The only guarantee of our divinity is in its expression through our humanity. So the two are linked. When you think of things like social activism and stuff like that, when you put together our divinity and our humanity and realize that means we have to see all life in that divine perfection. And if something feels not quite right for us, that's our experience, and we can do something about that. We can begin to explore things to do. Consequently, an enlightened soul understands the meaning of sympathy and exercises it, but not morbidly. And that's an important differentiation for sure, is that it's not done morbidly. And I really want you to check out this chapter if you have something going on. There's something here for heart disease, poison, paralysis. There is something here for asthma and hay fever, nerve troubles, blood trouble, skin diseases. All of these things are in here. Fevers, obstetrics. Ernest Holmes has written little treatments with these. So this is something you can use ongoing. Colds and obesity and kidney and bladder and liver disturbances, stomach trouble, insomnia. I could use that one. Deafness, thoughts about food, weather conditions. People talk a lot about the weather. Have you noticed that? When we don't know what to talk about, we talk about the weather. Rheumatism. Supply. Ooh, that's a big one, isn't it? Especially right now, it seems like, everywhere I go, I'm seeing people really challenged with the ideas of having enough money to do all the things they need to do. Prices have gone up. Things have gotten a little bit out of sorts for some. So in this chapter, which is on page 262, he says, God is spirit. Spirit is substance, and substance is supply. This is the keynote to a realization of the more abundant life, to the demonstration of success in financial matters. It is right that we should be successful, for otherwise, spirit is not expressed. The divine cannot lack for anything, and we should not lack for anything that makes life worthwhile here on earth. And by worthwhile, each of us has a different idea or concept of what worthwhile is, how we want to live. And once we've decided what that is, the universe supports it. Everything that we do should be a success, and we should be led to those things which are constructive and worthwhile. To bring a realization of the presence of the Spirit into all acts is to prove that God is all, even in the slightest things which we undertake. Nothing is great, nothing is small to the divine. So we should never wonder if what we are going to do will be hard or easy, God knows no hard or easy. A treatment, and he's written a wonderful treatment here that I'm going to share with you. And on page 264, he's written a treatment for peace. He said, we cannot be in peace until we know that the Spirit is the only cause, medium, and effect in our lives. There is no past, present, and future to it. Evil has no history and has never entered into the being or the experience of reality. The mind must come to know and to realize all these truths if it is to have real and lasting peace. All right, so I want to share with you, as we're coming to a close here, I want to share these two treatments that he's written. They're quite beautiful. So if you want to just close your eyes for a moment and take in these words. I am surrounded by pure spirit, by God, the living spirit. My thought is God thought, and it is the law unto that thing where it is spoken. Everything that I do shall be a success. I am led, guided, and inspired by the living spirit of love and light. I am compelled to move in the right direction and to always know what to do, when, where, how to do it. I'm surrounded by right action. I'm filled with the consciousness of right action. Right action is success in all that I undertake to do. I am successful in all my undertakings, and I am compensated for all my efforts. I am surrounded by substance, which is always taking the form of supply and always manifesting itself to me in the form of whatever my need may be at the time. I always have an abundance of money and an abundance of whatever it takes to make life happy and opulent. There's a continuous movement toward me of supply of money, of all that I need to express the fullest life, happiness, and action. I have an inner understanding of my place in the universe. I know that it is unique. The divine has not incarnated in anyone else in just the same individual way that it has in me. I am unique and forever individualized. Therefore, I do not need to imitate anyone or to long for the good that belongs to another. All good is now mine and is now manifest in my experience. I do not compete with anyone, for I am and remain forever myself. This self is united with all selves, but is always an individual and a unique self. There is that in me which all people recognize as worthwhile and desirable, and everyone whom I meet loves this self of mine and recognizes its worth. I draw all toward me, and those whom I can benefit and those who can benefit me are irresistibly drawn toward me. I do not strain, will, or coerce. I know. The truth makes me free from the fear of poverty or bondage and emancipates me from the thought of limitation. I see that money, like everything else that is desirable, must be a spiritual idea, and I know that I have this idea right in my mind at this moment. I shall always have this idea of abundance. It is mine, and I take it. The opportunity for self-expression and compensation is always open to me, and I am at all times compelled to know, accept, and operate upon this opportunity. I have abundance because I am abundance. And the treatment for peace: be still and know that I am God. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God within me. I am the principle of peace within me. I am the manifestation of love within me. My mind is poised in peace and beauty. All sense of fear or doubt is gone. I rest in calm trust and rely on the law of spirit to bring good into my experience. I contend with none, argue with none, and am filled with wonderful peace and light. There is no uncertainty about my future and no fear as a result of my past. I live in an eternal now, which is filled with good alone. Goodness and beauty follow me. Peace and joy accompany me. happiness, and wholeness fill my entire being with the realization of love and perfection. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God within me. This inner mind of mine is now divine and complete. It has no worries and no fears. It is whole, complete, and satisfied. I look back over all previous experience and find that it was good, very good. I look toward the future and find that it is good and very good. I look at the present and find that it is also good and very good. God is in all, over all, and through all. I am the Christ, the Son of the living God within me. I am the spirit of confidence. I am poised in love and reason. I am the perfect law of truth and the complete presence of beauty. I am Christ, the Son of the living God within me. And so it is. I love reading Ernest Holmes' treatments. His treatments and his poems always speak so loudly to me. Well, here we are at the end of another beautiful Saturday morning, and our time is up. And I hope you'll join us again next Saturday and all throughout the week for other programming on the New Thought Media Network. And if this programming is serving your well-being, please make a donation. And you can do that at ntmedia.org. Just click donate. And consider a recurring donation, and that's really easy to do. You just click a button, and then every month at the same time, that amount will come out. So consider that. And, our programming relies on your generosity and your participation. So thank you for sharing your morning with me. I'm Rev Barbara Jeab, and please like, share, and subscribe. And until the next time, just know that life loves you, and I do too. Have a beautiful, beautiful weekend.